appreciate you having me today. And so my topic is how to rewire your brain so that you don't want to drink alcohol. And I honestly think that learning to manage your mind is the only way to not stop drinking, but to stop wanting to drink. We cannot control our behavior with the same thoughts and feelings that are driving us to drink. And so just relying on willpower, just relying on discipline to, control ourselves, well, that just kind of falls apart after a while because, being good and, doing what we're supposed to do, we're all hardwired to rebel. Like that's where our creative energy comes, like throwing it out to the universe and just saying, I can do whatever I want. And when you think that you have to quit drinking, you think that part of you has to die if you are truly still believing that you want to drink and that alcohol is your friend and that you're giving something up. So addressing the thoughts that are making you want to drink is the upstream way of changing your mind. Because you can not only quit drinking, but you can fall in love with yourself as a sober person, as an alcohol-free person. And so before I get in and share with you all of my thoughts and strategies that I use for doing this, I just want to tell you, I don't know where everybody is in this room, but just over 2 years ago, I thought I couldn't quit drinking. I thought that life would be over. I thought that something was wrong with me and that I, it was just all my problem and that life is over. And I had gone from that into being a person who is proud of not drinking. I love to go to parties and social events now that we're allowed out of our houses. I'm still a frequent flyer at the bar, and I'm like, I want my seltzer water with a half ginger ale, fresh lime, make it a double. I have so much fun when I go out and I never worry about not drinking. In fact, I'm proud of it. And this is a testament to the power of our belief systems. Because here's the thing, you can know that you need to quit drinking. You can know that that would be a better thing. But 95% of your thoughts and beliefs are subconscious, which means 5% of your thoughts are fighting with the iceberg, if you will. The iceberg underneath your conscious is that you still have all these hard beliefs hardwired into your into your nervous system, that alcohol is a reward for hardworking people, and that alcohol is part of our social thing. It's part of our culture. And if you give it up, then you're giving up your rightful place in society. And if you don't understand that you have to rewire your subconscious and that you can rewire your subconscious, then you are constantly going to be fighting a battle. And I'm testament and proof, and I know so many other, just like you, Camille, who we're not missing anything. We're the life of the party. We're having a ball in sobriety. So it is possible. And just to speak to kind of the subconscious, how easily it drives, just today. So recently I've realized maybe I kind of ate my way through winter and I'm getting all my shorts out. And so there's like 5 pounds that could maybe go away. And so I consciously thought, okay, I'm going to just tweak a couple things about my diet. And really, I'm just going to take out the unconscious eating. And so I'm super okay with that, and that's what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, earlier today, as I was putting the finishing touches on this, I realized I'm sitting here eating some of last night's dinner. I never made a decision to go get that food. It was just my subconscious driving the bus, and I wasn't paying attention. And that's why it's so important to dig in and realize that you have to rewire your subconscious beliefs to actually change your behaviors. And you have to interrupt, because we do just run on autopilot. And our behavior becomes driven by those things instead of making decisions that are really good. So I want to share my screen if I could, and open up with a question. Have you ever seen this image before? We've got an elephant. If you're on your phone and it's hard to see, basically we've got an elephant being tied to a tent stake, which if you know anything about elephants and tent stakes, this elephant is free to go at any time. And so this to me symbolizes our beliefs that keep us tied to drinking, where we are not realizing that we are way stronger than what we think we are, and we are way more capable of being happy. We're able to do whatever we want, but we're tied. And so I just want you to think about, if you are taking notes in this presentation, just ask yourself, what do you believe about alcohol that makes you not free to go? That makes you think, I need to think about this. I need to come at this from a different angle. I've got to ask myself questions like, am I an alcoholic? And I have to figure this out. Like, there's something to figure out. Even though when you look at the effects of alcohol in your life, even if it's just vanity, like, you'd look better if you quit drinking, or you'd sleep better if you quit drinking, or, maybe your relationships would be better. Like, whatever it is, how is it that you're still arguing with what is obvious, that life is better without alcohol? The truth is, with alcohol is a neurotoxic, mind-altering, class 1 carcinogen. 1 bottle of wine is equal to 10 cigarettes on the carcinogenic thing. So if you're anything like I was, where I was drinking a bottle of wine a night and then some, then, but that's socially acceptable versus lighting up really isn't. Alcohol is also a depressant. So if you're on any psych meds, and you're taking those because they're antidepressants, so you have a belief in you that taking a medication every day will make you feel better, and yet we're taking medication every day because alcohol is a drug, and we take that every single day thinking that we're going to feel better, but it's a depressant. And so there are just a lot of powerful beliefs, and I'm giving you some of them, about what alcohol is and what alcohol does for us and why we need it, that keep us tied to this proverbial stake, if you will. And so just to kind of get into, how do you change your mind? Like, how does that look? First of all, I want to remind all of us that we change our mind all of the time. And so I wanted to ask, and I'll share a little bit, but just for audience participation, think of some things that you've changed your mind about. Like, full pivot, full bipolar back tuck, changing your mind about something. Like, were you raised in a religion that you now no longer practice? Have you ever changed your diet? Like, I went complete vegan at one point and was like that for almost 12 years. And now I'm mostly plant-based. So I regularly changed my mind about what I'm eating and what's good for me and all of that. I changed my mind once about being married and got a divorce. I changed my mind about friendships a lot. Somebody's my new bestie, and then a few weeks or months or years later, we're no longer hanging out as much because it's no longer a good fit, because we change over time. And that's the thing with alcohol. It's like, you don't have to demonize it and say that every drink you've ever taken was a bad idea. I had a ball drinking so many times for a long time. And I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case. I don't think I had a ball because I was drinking alcohol, but alcohol was part of a lot of good times in my life. And now I don't believe alcohol is necessary to have a good time. And so I've changed my mind about that. Once upon a time, I was determined to be a working mother. And I had my first child, and I'm doing the daycare, and I'm wearing the working moms, and I'm reading the magazines. And then I got pregnant with my second child and realized it was honestly literally more expensive for me to continue to work every day than it was to pay the childcare and the cost of working associated with being a mom with 2 small babies. And I quit, and I did a full-blown mind change. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself, when have you changed your mind? Like, we do change our minds. So this belief somehow that you have to quit drinking and that you're still going to believe that alcohol is good. Like, no, we got to bring our beliefs along for the ride and make this like the best decision ever. And so here's another image. There's something called a domino belief. And in this little science experiment, he's got a 1 millimeter thick and 5 millimeter high tiny little domino. And that is going to knock down a 3 foot high, 100-pound domino. And that is symbolic for our beliefs. One little belief is all you need to get going on this domino effect, if you will. And I'm going to tell you what my domino belief is, and then my challenge to you is to dig deep and think about it. Because the belief that I love not drinking, that's the 500-pound domino. You got to go way down into the nitty gritty. And I'm going to propose, here's what a domino belief might look like for you. For me, I reserve the right to change my mind. When you are looking for a belief, you have to find a thought that resonates in your body, something that lifts you up. So if your thought, I have to quit drinking, most of us, I know for me personally, when I had that thought, I felt bad. I felt bad about that. Like, I have to quit drinking. It felt heavy. It felt restrictive. So when you're choosing your beliefs, when you're going upstream and you're trying to find the beliefs that you want to attach to, you have to look for the ones that lift you up. So the first belief that you come to get to the ultimate goal of changing your mind about alcohol has to feel good. So for me, I love the belief I reserve the right to change my mind whenever the heck I feel like it. That's a power statement to me, and it's also a true statement. And then we can begin to work with like, if you believe this, then you can believe that. And you just slowly work your way up. And it is a process, but it's really very good. Another domino belief might be to recognize that alcohol is like a religion. It's a reward for hardworking people. Adults have a right to drink. These are beliefs that we have. Drinking is a celebratory event, and only alcoholics don't drink normally. So it's like a set of beliefs. And what is a belief? How is a belief different than a thought? A belief is just a thought you no longer think about. It's an assumption. It's a true story. And I like to think of those beliefs as like little bricks that kind of start blocking us from reality. Because when you have a belief, then you no longer look at evidence. If you've heard of confirmation bias, you only see what you expect to see. So if you have a belief, then there's an expectation there. And so all of the information coming in is filtered through it. And so I'd like to challenge you to think now, like, when you think about why is it hard to quit alcohol when there's so much evidence that you would be better. I mean, maybe alcohol isn't even all that bad for you, but if you would be better even a little bit, like, what's stopping you from trying that out for a week or a month or a year or whatever? There's got to be a belief there that ties you back to the bottle. What's tying you to, what's keeping you from saying, you know what, I'm never going to drink again. And as a person who went vegan, I said, I'm never going to eat meat again. That's since changed, but I tell you what, I'm still never going to go to McDonald's again. I'm still never going to go eat, processed crappy food again. And I put alcohol now in the same category as, cheap processed food. I'd have to be real hungry before I got a, Happy Meal from McDonald's. Like, that just isn't going to happen. And to me, alcohol isn't necessarily bad or good. It's just not something I'm going to put in my body. I don't eat chemicals, and I really try to keep my diet clean. And so it's so interesting when you look at our society, how I know for me, I was preaching vegetables and vegan and organic and gluten-free and all this stuff. And then I'm downing ethanol like it's the fountain of youth. And it's so interesting because I just had a belief that alcohol was healthy, at least in moderation. I mean, I wasn't drinking moderately, but I was trying, and I certainly did not think that alcohol was unhealthy. It was just a belief. It was a blind spot. Okay. So the truth is that alcohol is addictive and it's toxic. And so anybody who's drinking on a regular basis can get addicted to alcohol. You don't go to the doctor and get a prescription for narcotics and they say, well, as long as you're not a narcotic-holic, you can take as many as you want. That's not how that conversation goes. Anybody who uses an addictive drug can get addicted to it. And we forget that. You know, you never see a smoker, a person who smokes every day, saying, oh, I'm not addicted to smoking. It's a given. If you smoke every day, because smoking's gross. And I say that with full respect as a former smoker. I loved smoking for a while. But now when you're around it, it's gross. You know, you have to try to become a smoker. You have to puke the first time, and you have to get over the head buzz, and you really have to work for that. So then when you see somebody smoking every day, it's because they're addicted to it. It's just a given. We're very comfortable with the word addiction when it comes to coffee or sugar or cigarettes or our phones even. Like, we all laugh about being addicted to our phones. And yet when you talk to people who drink every day, they're like, oh, no, I'm not addicted. Well, yeah, you are, kind of. I mean, you drink every day. It's not a shameful thing. Alcohol's a drug. If you drink it every day, then you're dependent on it at the very least. And honestly, what happens, you know, any kind of drug, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So, you know, just like coffee, it takes you up and focuses you and gives you energy, and then it drops you on its ass on the way out the door. That's the withdrawal effect from the coffee. It takes you up artificially, and then it leaves you artificially low. There's no shame in that. Alcohol does the opposite. It soothes us and calms us, and then on the way out, we feel stressed and anxious because of higher levels of cortisol and adrenaline. There's no shame in that. It's just a fact of the alcohol. So, accepting the truth without shame or judgment for either the substance or ourselves is really important. But then, how do you learn to manage your mind? So I want to go into a little tool that I've created. And this may be real busy for your screen, because if you're on your phone, if you're on a computer, it's a little bit easier to see. But what are our emotions, and how do we feel them? You know, when you first start drinking, everybody's like, oh, it's because you don't know how to feel your emotions. Well, when I was a drinker, I was feeling my emotions all day long. I was angry and pissed off and ashamed. Like, I had no idea, like, what do you mean I'm not feeling my emotions? And so learning how to understand what your emotions are just your beliefs. And I want to say that, I want you to stop and pause. Emotions are your belief systems in your nervous system. Just like you can hear the words that I'm saying, you feel the thoughts that you think. You feel your beliefs. So learning that when you have a feeling, it's due to whatever it is you're thinking or believing subconsciously. This is how you can get in and rewire and understand what's creating whatever's tethering you to your drinking habit. So think of emotions as like a song. And this is where I'm calling this visual, name that tune. Okay? So let's call the song today Trying to Quit, because we all recognize that song. The feelings that come up when you're trying to quit, they feel overwhelming because they're made up of multiple emotions, and each emotion is made up of multiple thoughts. So I want you to think of, you know, the overall sensation of trying to quit as an emotional, you know, emotional song. And then every chord is made of notes that breaks down into different thoughts. So if you look at this and you know anything about music, we've got 6 different chords here, if you will. And each chord is made up of different thoughts. So the first emotion, and this is what you do when you think about trying to quit, the first question I would ask is, what are you feeling about that? And you just think about it. You go inside. What am I feeling about that? I identified 6 feelings that were kind of jumbling up to make my version of the trying to quit song. And the first one was resistance. I felt the second emotion would be fear of missing out, FOMO. Another emotion I felt was anger, that I had to deal with this. Another emotion was longing. Another emotion was social anxiety. Another emotion was confusion, okay? And all of that came together, and that's what was resonating inside my body. That's what was resonating in my nervous system. So this is how you go from changing your behavior to dealing with the thoughts and the feelings creating that behavior. So now I can say from an educated, observant viewpoint that my emotion of resistance, if I break that down, what does resistance feel like? Well, the thoughts in my head were, this is going to suck. I cannot do this forever. And I need alcohol to relax. And that made me feel those words in my brain resonated in my body, and I could feel them as resistance. Those words aren't true. They're literally thoughts in my head. The emotion of fear of missing out. The thoughts that were creating that emotion was, well, like Camille was talking about earlier, I'm a drinker. I'm a drinker. So that produced the sensation in my body of separation, fear of missing out. I also believed that alcohol is my friend. You know, when I didn't want to talk to other idiots around me, I just poured myself another drink. Or my kids were bothering me. Alcohol is my friend. Or my husband's not coming home. Alcohol is my friend. Alcohol is my reward. So thinking about trying to quit, I felt like I'd be missing out. Another emotion was anger. This is not fair. That's the thought that's creating the anger. And think about, pause just for a minute. Think the words, this isn't fair. The more you think those words, the more you feel them in your nervous system. They resonate. So it's not that drinking is or is not fair, or not drinking is or is not fair. It's the words in your brain creating the emotional sensation. I broke down the next emotion, longing, into 3 different thoughts. Life will never be the same. If you think those words, life will never be the same, you can feel that in your heart. I wish I could drink like a normal person. That brings up that graspy, longing feeling. I'm going to feel isolated and lonely. If you think those words, abracadabra, they become true. You feel them in your nervous system if you're believing them. All right? The next emotion, social anxiety. That's a big one when we go to quit drinking. Break that down. And you guys can break these down on your own. This is just me doing this to the best of my, memory. But when I felt social anxiety, the thoughts, some sampler thoughts that would come up, I can't handle this. I can't go to this party without drinking. I can't talk to this person without drinking. Something is wrong with me. I need alcohol, okay? Or people are judging me. If I'm not drinking, everybody's going to have something to say about that. Everybody's going to be looking at me. Everybody's going to be talking about me. They're going to know I have a problem. All of those thoughts. Yeah, this one I could have listed like 100 thoughts, and I'm sure you can as well. But I just put 3 up here. Okay, so the other emotion, the last emotion I came up with was confusion. This keeps a lot of us in indecision. We stick with confusing. I don't understand why this is happening, why I need to quit, why I can't moderate, fill in the blank there. Not understanding. When you say, I don't understand, that creates a sensation in your body of confusion. Another question, does this mean I'm an alcoholic? I mean, that not only produces confusion, it also produces shame. And I didn't even get into the shame bucket on this one. Okay, so think about when you're trying to quit, all of the things that are coming up for you. They can be broken down into separate emotions and then the thoughts creating that emotion. Now, I'm going to show you the happy ending to this story. This is me thinking about how much I love being alcohol free. That's the name of the song, okay? And I can break it down into 6 different emotions and the thoughts that create those emotions that I truly believe. So these thoughts I have come from it's taken me 2 years, but now these live in my body. These are my true stories, okay? The first emotion was relief. That was the first emotion that I felt when I quit drinking. I loved not waking up with a hangover. Yeah, it might be getting a little dicey at night, and I had to change my habits and all of that, but God, it felt good to wake up. It's still 2 years later, I still wake up some mornings ready to flinch because I'm not, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. I'm awake. I'm not drinking anymore. Another one that felt relieving, another thought was, I don't have to lie and hide anymore. You know, managing alcohol use disorder is a full-time gosh darn job. Full-time. You're worried about it. You got to plan for tonight. You got to make a cover story as to why you can't pick the kids up at 9. You got to tell the husband, no, I didn't already blow through a bottle of wine before you got home. You got to discuss is it going in the trash or is it going in the recycling? Are you going to actually make a special trip and dump it behind the grocery store because you don't want anybody to see the trash? I mean, all of these the lying and the hiding, it's such a relief when you realize all that's over. I love also, it felt very relieving to know I'm no longer making myself sick. One of the coolest things ever is when I go to the doctor and they say, how many drinks a week do you have? Big fat 0. That feels so good. It feels very relieving to know that I can be honest and that that's the truth. Another emotion I have is pride. I like myself. I really do. I really do. I no longer hide who I am. Another thing, I'm proud of what I've overcome. I'm not afraid of hard things, which is why when I realize my shorts don't fit and, you know, it's May, I'm like, I got this, not a problem. I'm not afraid of hard things. I know I can do it. Another emotion is joy. Life keeps just getting better. And at almost 49 years old, that's a huge thing to say. When I was drinking, it was starting to seem like all my best years were behind me. The parties were over, my beauty was all over, you know, all of the things that we romanticize about drinking and youth, all that's behind me. And now I'm like, literally, life just keeps getting better. Another emotion is connection. The 3 thoughts I picked with that I just kind of pulled out. I know who I am. I'm connected to myself. I know I have a purpose. And I feel seen and supported by others. That's the coolest one of all, because drinking left me so isolated that I really started to believe that my husband didn't care, my friends didn't get me, my kids were just assholes, you know, nobody cares, nobody sees me. It's because I was hiding myself. Of course I felt like nobody saw me. They didn't. I was hiding. Okay. The last 2 emotions, gratitude. I'm so grateful for having alcohol use disorder. That took a while to not be ashamed, but to be grateful. But I got there. I've learned how to take care of myself. I have everything I need. And finally, certainty. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I can trust myself to make good decisions about alcohol, about anything. And the other thing I know for certain, alcohol is poison to me. Maybe not to everybody. I don't know, but it's poison to me. All right, so now I want to teach you my favorite way to rewire my brain. This will allow you to shift into change. It will allow you to shift into realizing that the external circumstance is not the problem. Your thoughts and your feelings are the problem. So I want you to look at this optical illusion on your phone. Some of you may have seen it before. Camille, can you look at it and tell me what you see? You're on mute.
Yes, so I see 2 things.
Okay.
So the first thing I saw was a woman looking behind her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you want me to tell you the other thing I see?
It's for spoiler alert, you'll see one of two things. So some people in the audience, if you haven't seen this before, you may think there's one woman, either old or young, but go ahead, Camille.
And then the second one that I see is of an old woman, potentially an older woman, with her chin down, and you can see her profile.
Yeah, okay. So this is what emotional sobriety looks like. Let's talk about quitting drinking for a minute. Quitting drinking is not good or bad. It's just a decision you can make. And when you look at quitting drinking as a decision, you can either see the young woman or the old hag. In any given circumstance in your life, the external circumstance is neutral. It just is what it is. It's how you think and feel about it that determines what you see. Okay? So learning how to take control of your thoughts and feelings requires you to take ownership of them. Quitting drinking is not good or bad. It's what you decide. I've decided it's the best thing I ever did. Therefore, I feel like it's the best thing I've ever did. If you're deciding it's the worst thing and it's awful, you're going to feel that way. But here's the cincher. Quitting drinking is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's whatever you decide it is. It's whatever you make of it. And if you've got enough evidence that quitting would be a step in the right direction for you, then you get to decide what that means. You can quit because you have a problem, or you can quit because you have a better option. That's it. This isn't about, and this is where you kind of have to almost really wrap your mind around this. The problem here isn't how to quit drinking. The real problem here is how to think about quitting drinking. The real problem is not whether or not you put alcohol into your mouth. The problem is, can you change your mind? And that's where I challenged you in the beginning. Have you ever changed your mind before? Then you know you can do it. You just have to want to do it. You have to realize that alcohol's not serving you. You could do better. You could do better. And if that's the case, then your problem isn't how to quit drinking. Your problem is to focus on the thoughts that make you want to drink and weeding them out of the garden of your mind and planting in new seeds of thoughts. I want to share with you 2 ways that I've done this outside of alcohol. One is really simple. I have a car, beautiful. I'm grateful for it. I did not like the color. I know, first world pains. Every time I got in that beautiful brand new car, I thought, dumb color. Gosh, I wish I could have gotten the steel gray. I wish I could have gotten it in pearl. I wish I could have gotten it in any color, but this bluey silver, grandma color. That was my thoughts. And I decided, you know what? Either trade the damn car in or change your mind. I thought it would be cheaper to change my mind, and I did. And so I started cultivating new thoughts about that car. I started looking around at other people's cars. Oh my gosh, that one's just like mine. What a pretty car that is. And I just nourished the thoughts that I like the color of my car. And now I do. It's amazing. But I remember feeling icky inside and like I purchased remorse because it was like still on the lot. So I bought the color they had instead of the color that I wanted. And for 2 years, I drove that car and didn't like it. And I thought, trade it in or change your mind. I changed my mind. The other one is a little bit more serious. When I quit drinking, honestly, I had 2 reasons that brought me in, whatever brings you in, right? I was vain and I was looking at my face going, this is not going well. I had bloodshot eyes and my skin, it was not pretty. I was not pretty. I was starting to get the busted capillaries on my nose. And the other thing is I kind of thought I was going to be getting a divorce. I was not happy in my marriage and I wasn't going to go through another divorce drunk. You know what I'm saying? And as I have done the work to get my mind to take emotional responsibility for everything I think and feel, I realized My husband is not the problem. My thoughts and feelings about my husband are the problem. And so once I was able to see that, here's a thought that I was having. I love him, I just don't like him. When I thought those thoughts, the emotional tune inside my body it wasn't sustainable for marriage. I love him, but I don't like him. And I realized that my husband was not the problem. My thoughts and feelings were the problem. So that's just another example where I did the work to take responsibility for everything that I'm thinking and feeling, and then decide, and again, I could have divorced my husband. That wouldn't have been good or bad. It would have been neutral. And, what do they say? There is no right decision. There's just the one you make right. I could have made that decision right. I would have been fine. He would have been fine. Life would have gone on. But again, kind of like the car, it was cheaper to change my mind than it was to get a divorce. And I'm married to a wonderful man. And I'm really glad that I was able to do the work and take the responsibility there. And so I'm just going to end with a tale of two wolves. I don't know if you've ever heard this one, but an old Cherokee told his grandson, "My son, there's a battle between two wolves inside all of us. One is evil. It is anger, jealousy, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, and truth." The boy thought about it and asked, "Grandfather, which wolf wins?" The old man quietly replied, "The one you feed." That's how we rewire our minds, is we take responsibility for everything we think. Our thoughts are not true. They're just the words in our head. They're ideas we learned from the TV. They're ideas we learned from our culture. They're ideas we grow up with and that our parents taught us. They're whatever. They're just words, and we can change them. And you do it all the time. Look at the evidence that you have changed your mind, and decide your problem is not that you drink too much or that you need to quit drinking. That's not your problem. Your problem is your thoughts and feelings about quitting drinking, and you can change that. And with that, I'm sure I have more I can say, but Camille, I'm just going to stop the share here and see if you have any thoughts or questions or feedback, and see if we want to open it up at all.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for your honesty and transparency. I just thought the information that you gave us, it was so important. And Sherry also thinks, she said, "I love these new emotional tunes. If I just think about not drinking differently, it becomes doable." Yes. And I have a question for you before we move on. In the chat, please put your questions that you have for Colleen. I have a question for you. Are you a musician?
No, which is, anybody who is a musician would have answered that for me, because those chords were not, I wanted to express something. So my daughter actually helped me make that. She's in marching band, but I wanted to express that, you have this big overarching sound, and it's a blend of, different instruments, and then those get broken down into different notes. And so it was kind of a way to express what happens inside of us, because it does feel like, an orchestra of insanity is some days what I feel like is going on in my body, but
yeah, a cacophony, right?
Cacophony, perfect word.
It resonated, pardon the pun, with me. So thank you for sharing that. And the words we speak. Wait, there was something that you talked about at the very beginning. So I'm just going to kind of go through my notes. Please ask questions. We want this to be very conversational. But what you were talking about reminded me of Einstein's quote when he said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so true, is that we stay in these thought processes when we're trying to break up with alcohol about all of the ways that it is serving us. Right?
And that's never made sense to me before until this time, because, the same problem that created it, I'm trying with but it's redefining the problem. You know, drinking is not your problem. What you think about drinking is your problem. And so that's where Einstein, you know, that quote sounds really good, but it never resonated with me before until I substituted the word thinking for feeling. We can't solve our problems with the same feelings that created them. Whatever feelings that are driving you to drink, you cannot take those feelings and figure out how to quit drinking with those feelings. You have to understand that those feelings are created by thoughts, you know, that I need this, or I want this, or I deserve this, or whatever. Because that's the difference between quitting using willpower and then ultimately either going back to drinking or just substituting for another addiction, because you don't know that you need, the belief underneath there is that you need something outside of yourself to feel better, and that you don't have everything that you need within. That's the thinking that leads to drinking.
And just trying those on yourself by saying these, the way that you, the positive emotion versus the negative emotion, and see how it actually feels in the body can give you so much information. If we take some time to check back in to see how that, like you said, how it feels, right? It can really tell us a lot. And have you ever seen a study where they did this in schools for science experiments, where you had the plant, and the plant was given the same exact plant, the same soil, the same light, and you had kids that would come and say negative things to one of the plants and positive and loving things to the other plant. And the plant that received the negative comments actually wilted and died, and the plant that received the positive comments flourished.
Yeah. Water does that too.
Exactly. And we are made of water.
Yeah.
It really does. It's, you know, scientifically proven. It's not all of the woo that what we say is important. Really fantastic presentation, Colleen. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be a part of this. I appreciate the images. Powerful. So why do we think we need more and inevitably overdrink?
Okay.
Clearly know when I've had enough, but the numbing is our demon to crave another. It's a vicious cycle. Thank you for that question.
Yeah. You want me to jump in on that?
Yeah, and then I'll go.
So the need to overdrink really is more biochemical than it is. There may be thought patterns driving that one, you know, and this is a great opportunity to say that just correcting your thoughts, this is multifaceted. You know, you are dealing with a dysregulated nervous system. So it's not just cultural beliefs. And so I want to be clear that it's just, you don't just like, oh, I love being a non-drinker and skip on with your life. You know, this is the work. This is what you do, and you have to keep working at it. But the reason why we overdrink is because alcohol is a drug. And think about if you're running on caffeine all day long, and then you've got a big presentation, and you have to make a decision between having another cup of coffee or kind of pushing through it. Coffee is a little bit opposite because it's a stimulant, where alcohol is a depressant. But you keep drinking to avoid the withdrawal effects of the alcohol, because once the buzz wears off, your cortisol levels are elevated, and so that is just a behavior-based. You know, your subconscious, you can stop drinking if you make a decision, but it's just really, really hard. And if you're not paying attention and trying, and there's more, you just pour it, you know. But if you've ever run out, you know, you can do it. It's just uncomfortable. I used to call that re-entry. And that was where I feel like I shifted from being a problem drinker, is I couldn't have one or two and stop, because I got really uncomfortable. I got really agitated because of the withdrawal effects of alcohol. So just like smoking, you're not smoking because smoking's so awesome. You're smoking to avoid the withdrawal effects of the last cigarette. Same thing with sugar. You know, the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you need. And if you don't have sugar, then you go into withdrawal. Alcohol is the same way. You're drinking because you drank. Like, I don't ever, you know, worry about alcohol now because it's not in my system. So I don't know if that makes sense, Patty. You know, if that answers your question, but I think we keep drinking once we start, more due to the biochemistry of the substance that is a drug. It's a drug.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's all of these little mini withdrawals that happen throughout the evening that cue your body to want more. And the way that it works is just like Colleen was saying, that it is a depressant, but what our body does is it creates a chemical, cortisol, to increase it to it where it can be a natural stimulant. So we have this depressant from the drug, stimulant from our bodies to want to go back into homeostasis or balance. And this is the reason why at 2 a.m. you wake up wide-eyed going, oh, I'm awake, damn it, and I feel like crap. It's because that depressant has completely weaned off, but you still have that stimulant of your body trying to rebalance itself. So yeah, just like Colleen was saying, it is an alcohol. I mean, it is an addictive substance where our body wants and needs more, and the more that we drink, the more that we want to drink, we build tolerance.
Well, and that's why, Camille, I know that my brain is healed from alcohol. I could have a drink, but I don't want to drink, because while I might get 20 minutes or 30 minutes of pleasure out of it, I'm going to pay the price. I'm either going to want another drink because I want to avoid the withdrawal, or I'll, if I go to sleep, then I'm going to wake up and it's going to interrupt my sleep. And since I've quit drinking, sleep is the new sex. I mean, oh my God, I sleep so well. And so that's what keeps me from drinking now, not fear. I don't not drink because of fear. I don't drink, paint thinner, and I don't drink, pop. I gave up pop years ago because of certain health effects. I don't drink alcohol because I don't want to feel jacked up in an hour.
Yeah, exactly. It goes where we change our mindset. So one of the other things is that what happens here is that if when we're trying to, in the moderation mayhem, where we're trying to moderate our drinking, we have to recognize that we actually have to learn a new way of being. Our brains actually have to learn a new way of being. We have to create a new habit and break an old habit. We have these neural pathways that have been laid, the drinking neural pathways, and they are firing. They are jazzed up. And they can go dormant, right? They can, when we don't use them, they can lie there unused. And we've created these better habits, right? Like better sleep, exercise, eating healthy, positive thinking creates new neural pathways. But as soon as we introduce it again in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, yeah, it might not be a problem as in you're drinking to excess, but eventually if you use it in a habitual manner, then it will enter our lives like normal, like it used to be most of the time.
Yeah.
What else do you have for us? Yeah, Colleen.
Well, I was just going to say that that's the goal for me when I quit drinking was to become a person who didn't want to drink.
Yes.
Because I don't like to feel deprived. And so that's where, as a drinker, that's all I ever wanted, was to be able to take it or leave it. And now that I can take it or leave it, I'll leave it. I have no desire, to have that. And that is the coolest and the best place to be free of needing something to make yourself feel better, and I feel that way about food, certain foods too. I don't eat really sugary foods because I know in an hour or two, I'm going to feel bad. And it's not about judgment. It's not about being an addict. It's not about anything except I love myself enough to not put stuff into my body that makes my day harder. Like, why? I used to, it's like I ran a marathon every single day, and I got, in the nighttime, I'd shoot myself in the foot every single night and then wonder why I'm bleeding and limping and bitching that I don't feel good and nobody's doing what I need them to do and blah, blah, all the negative stuff. I was doing it to myself, and I didn't know it. I don't even judge that woman because honestly, I thought alcohol was healthy. And, it wasn't until the later drinking years that I ever even considered that I should probably maybe not drink anymore. But it's not because I'm a bad person or that drinking is bad or that other people that drink is bad. There's what you do and there's what you don't do. And there's how that works out. And I no longer am willing to pay the price for a stupid substance.
Yeah. And I love that. It's not our fault, right? That we got into these patterns and situations. The way that we can reprogram our brain is the thoughts and the feelings that we have about it, just like you mentioned. And I also love how you mentioned this thing about not wanting to eat McDonald's anymore. You might have introduced these other foods when you went from vegan to eating meat, but you won't eat McDonald's anymore because of the processed food. And it's changing and reframing it as well as being this conscious consumer. We are conscious consumers of what we put in our body when we look at non-gluten, or gluten-free, non-GMO, non-processed foods. But then when it comes to alcohol, we just pop the cork and chug it. So I love bringing that awareness about how we can make shifts in our thoughts by just looking at it as what it is, this fermented beverage that's ethanol, right? And then we can start reframing in that way. So Patty said, I thankfully don't desire alcohol daytime, but come that dinner time and evening, the desired habit kicks in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I think that also speaks to the biochemistry too. One thing I never realized was how long alcohol stays in your system. I never realized that I probably could have gotten a DUI in the morning. I thought if you slept and you woke up and it's good to go. And I never drove my kids around at night, but I sure as heck was in the car first thing in the morning. And in hindsight, probably there were times when I shouldn't have been driving and I had no idea. And so it takes, that's 24 hours. So just to speak to Patty's point, you're not really you're still experiencing withdrawals and they're just getting worse throughout the day. So you may be highly motivated to not be a daytime drinker, which we all are until, at some point, it is a progressive situation. But if you're highly motivated, that can keep you going for a really long time. But then by evening, when you start to let your guard down and your subconscious kind of takes over and there's no reason to not drink, that's when I knew I had a problem with drinking. When I went from being a person who needed a reason to drink, it's social, we're going out. I wouldn't drink on Tuesday unless we're going out to dinner with our friends or whatever. I needed a reason to drink. And then I flipped to needing a reason to not drink. Well, I'm already home for the night, so I don't need to drive anymore. Now I needed a reason to not drink. And so Patty's point, I think, brings up a good one that when you need a reason, the next day, you're probably fine because you have lots of reasons to not drink. But as soon as the reason to not drink goes away, that's when the thoughts start that you need to. You want to read Lori's point?
Yes. So what if all you know is feeling like shit and you have no hope for a different life? Do you just say, screw it and drink?
Yeah. I just want to in my heart right there to Lori, because I feel ya and I've been there. And I want to circle back, but I don't actually want to circle back to changing your thoughts, because that is an emotional situation that we just have to honor, and we have to sit with that and not be like stupid polypositives and be like, oh, just change your thoughts. You need to be seen, and I see you, and I know Camille sees you, that you just feel like shit. I think the first and only thing I'm going to respond to that is understand that it's alcohol making you feel like shit. The alcohol is making it feel that way.
We can change this negative. I love that. I love the support, Lori. We can change the negativity together. Right. And at some points in our lives that we may lose that feeling, that hope, and just to also recognize that we go through these waves and changes of emotion, and that an emotion we might be feeling right now may be different in the morning.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to get help. Sometimes you can't pull yourself up. And so if you find yourself in a severely depressed situation, the first thing to realize is that alcohol is a depressant. And if you're drinking daily, you're on a high dose of a depressant medication, and that's why you're feeling like shit. But if that situation has become such a noose around your neck that you can't stop, that's where, you can write in your journal all you want, but if you literally cannot stop yourself from drinking, then seeking a physician support or something stronger, I would highly recommend that. You know, I remember thinking the worst thing I could do is admit that I had a drinking problem and ask for help. There are worse things than facing that, you know. And if your mental health is at all ever becoming a life-threatening situation, then there's no shame. And I guess that's what I would say, Camille, is there's no shame. We've all been here. And so reaching out and asking for that support, I can't stop drinking and I can't change my thoughts until I do stop drinking, but I can't stop drinking. Like, there is help and support out there.
Thank you for that, Colleen. That was beautifully said. Okay, guys, so we are coming